these corporate and banking interests. You start to understand just what's happening and why it's happening.
Afghanistan is a perfect example of that. Those nasty old Taliban were destroying the opium poppy crops. They were interfering with the oil pipeline to ship oil across. And after we invaded, it was discovered they got billions of dollars or trillions of dollars worth of natural resources up in those mountains. Surprise, surprise, huh? And our soldiers are protecting the opium poppy crops.
Yeah, I mean, Afghanistan is the source of, I think, over 80% of the world's heroin is via the poppies that are there. The Taliban completely shut it down 2 years before 9/11. They just completely shut down the opium production. 9/11 and what happened afterwards, Iraq, Afghanistan, was a black op extraordinaire by these corporate interests, banking interests. Afghanistan and the enormous difficulty. I mean, you can talk about what's happened here in America, but we cannot ignore what's happened around the world. The financiers have appropriated the natural resources of Afghanistan and of Iraq and the Caspian Sea and Chevron, Halliburton, Unical, ExxonMobil, certainly, all these, and then the banks behind them. This is what's going on, and these soldiers, the American boys and girls from small towns with less than 15,000 people, who are out there losing their lives, and who are subjecting themselves to IEDs in the roads every day.
You're hitting on a topic here that I want to expand on a little bit. Every day, 16 of our veterans commit suicide. More Vietnam vets have committed suicide than were killed in Vietnam. 75,000.
Is that high now? I've heard 8, but if it's 16, that's just unforgivable. Yeah, I mean,
That's the latest. That's the latest I've got. That's the latest I've got.
Let me also give you another number, Clay. You'll get this from globalissues.org and these sources. I've seen comparable data elsewhere. 16,000 people every day around the world die from starvation. And the media here is talking about missing dogs or stupid BS nonsense. It doesn't matter.
We are being set up right now, in my opinion. Let me comment on this. And
you're not being set up. You've been set up.
We've been set up. Yes, sir.
It's moving to fast forward.
What happened in Soviet Union when the Soviet Union was created? They starved to death 10 million Ukrainians. They murdered over 60 million people. Did the same thing in Red China when the communists took over. Anytime communism takes over a country, they go after 3 classes of people in order. They go after the farmers first because they don't want you to be able to feed yourself. Ninth plank on the Communist Manifesto is corporate farms. Can you say Monsanto? And the Bill S510 right now wants to allow the government to come in and look in your backyard to see what you're growing, to test your food, and if it ain't by Monsanto, it may not pass the test. They want us to eat. They're feeding us genetically modified crops out of these corporate farms that the rats won't eat. Rats won't eat genetically modified corn.
Yeah.
It looks to me like we're
hydrogenated soybean oil, soy oil, corn oil.
And in California, they're raiding farms and natural co-op clubs where people want to be able to get raw milk, goat's milk.
I'm sure it's happening around the country. I mean, organics, but let's. I've got to get going in a couple minutes here. I wanna zero in on the Federal Reserve and the banking system. I used to work. Remember, I went to Yale. If you look at my background, you'll see I went to Yale. I worked at Goldman Sachs straight after college, and I brushed with the Trilateral Commission and some of these players in New York City, D.C., visited the Grand Masonic lodges of Boston, New York.
Did you join the Are you a Mason? Did you join the Masons?
No. I mean, I was aware of Skull and Bones when I was at Yale, but I don't think I deeply understood any of this stuff until frankly, after I got involved with the 9/11 Truth movement. The point I want to make is that what's happened since 1998 with the Asian market crisis, 2001 with the 2000s with the dot-com bubble implosion, and then the events of 9/11. This stuff is big and it's serious, and you can talk about individual events and minutia, but I think your statement about this being a war is very, very important, and we have to realize just how serious what's going on is. What's going on, is, and I don't have all the answers, or certainly I don't have any. I can't tell you how the system can be fixed overnight, but I can tell you it's incredibly screwed up.
Now, I was going to ask that. I keep looking for solutions. One of the solutions I found years ago was the restoration of the self-sufficient family farm. That's the basis of every civilization. And they immediately came after me on that, and then we started seeing the National Animal Identification System. We see the Bill S-510 to limit what you can grow in your backyard. So it's like they're anticipating us being able to feed ourselves and trying to stop that. How do we combat this? How do we, if we can't organize?
I'll give you two tactics right away. A couple of ideas. I've done stuff on my own here in Los Angeles in terms of impeachment, 9/11 truth, anti-war stuff, and it's been effective at a local level, and I think you can do that sort of thing successfully up to a point. Street activism, high visibility stuff that ideally gets picked up by major media somehow. But beyond all that, and beyond actually running for political office and not being taken over by special interests, I think that if you really want to change everything, okay, and if you really want meaningful change to happen long term, you've got to deal with the banking problem. You've got to deal with the New York money center banks and the European banks, their sister banks in London and elsewhere. And one idea that started achieving some traction in 2006, 2007, and I think is picking up now as an outgrowth of the Tea Party movement, is the idea of a bank run. So the banks are the source of the problem. They control the Federal Reserve, the Goldman Sachs in particular, and what people may want to think seriously about doing, and they have to do this, I think, is you need to stop the illusion of a stable system, which is what we have, and that you've got to force a crisis. And I think if there's a nationwide, international also boycott of consumer goods from China, cheap plastic crap from China, and if people take their money out of their banks, frankly, put it under a mattress, you're going to create huge pressure on the powers that be, because that's all they really care about in the end. They care about the integrity of the financial system, and some of this is sort of quasi-Gandhian-esque, but you've got to undermine the banking system, because they're dictating and calling the shots in terms of these bailouts, in terms of the nationalization of the housing market with takeovers of all these loans, and certainly the automobile, the manufacturing base of this country. I mean, we have we have, and this takes organizing, and it takes a lot of effort, and you know, and I